Blender for Noobs.
Hello and welcome back to Secrets of Blender modeling the Berkey spacecraft. In part 6 of this tutorial, what we're going to be looking at is creating the detailing and modeling inside the front and rear of the spacecraft. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to choose the first layer so we only see this layer. If you haven't done so already, you'll want to save this as part 6. And also if you're doing some progressional renders, if you haven't done the render of the last one, you may want to go ahead and do the render of that now. Okay, looking at the details inside the front and rear of the spacecraft, if we look at our reference image, as I mentioned before, we look in here and we see, basically we don't know what's going on. We see some details. It's kind of mysterious what's going on in there, and that's kind of what we want to convey with our spacecraft. We want to give some idea that there's something there going on, but we don't want to be too precise about it and give away the entire mystery. The other part of the spaceship, the rear of the spaceship, of course, we have no idea what's going on over there, so we're going to have to figure out what to do there. So we're going to go ahead and start on the front here. And also, when we look at these details, I only want to concentrate right now on the inside and not this outside yet. We're going to do that a little bit later, but let's start on the inside. So over in this view, I'm just going to do a control up arrow so we can work with our entire view here. First thing I want to do is I'm just going to select this, go to edit mode, and alt select this back piece here, and I'm just going to do an F to create a face there. And basically what I think I'm going to end up doing is, for this face, it's going to be a black material, so we don't see exactly what's happening in the background. However, what I may want to do is go ahead and do a Control R edge loop and just shore that up quite a bit, just so we're not distracted by that geometry there. Okay, tab back in object mode, and we're going to create all our different pieces that are basically going to go into the middle of this front area here. So first, I think I'm just going to start with a sphere. So Shift A and create mesh UV sphere. And going on my T menu into the properties here, and I really don't want it to be that detailed. Maybe something like 16 by 12. Again, keeping our faces down as much as possible. And we just move it out here. Scale it down some. Tab into edit mode. And I'm going to choose faces. Go into one front view so I can see what I'm doing. Turn off occlude here, because I want to select all of these faces here. And I'm just going to drag these down a little bit so I get sort of like almost like a capsule shape here. Tab back in edit mode and move it into place. And with that wall back there, we can kind of see where we're at as far as what our limitations are. I'll scale this down quite a bit. Now, depending on what kind of materials we use or textures or how we end up making this interior look, we may be able to just get away with just smoothing it. If that doesn't give us the look that we are going after, then of course we can add the subsurface and make it look a little bit better there. And I'm just going to tab back into edit mode here, and we can imagine that this thing may have to be clamped in by some kind of huge clamps or whatever. So I'm just going to do Control R, add an edge loop here, Control R, add another edge loop there, go back to faces, and just going to alt select these faces and actually deselect some of the ones around the back side here, and Shift D duplicate this. And actually I didn't need to create this edge loop here, so because I'm going to use this as the guide for my clamp. So I'm just going to bring this out, S to scale it up a little bit. And I think I'm going to go ahead and just choose P to separate this by selection. And while I'm in here, go ahead and just go to vertices and select this edge loop. Go ahead and X, delete that edge loop because I'm not going to need it. Okay, tab back into object mode, select this one, control up arrow, and I'm going to add a solidify modifier. Okay, control up arrow back in this view, and let's tab into object mode here, or edit mode, and I'm just going to select these vertices and just drag them back so that it looks like they go into the wall there. Once we have the basic clamp here, we can select all and just scale it down a little bit. And kind of fit it into place. And just do a Shift D, duplicate, and bring it down here. Okay, so there's kind of a clamp there. What I want to do now is add some hoses or tubing, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to do a Shift A, go back to my curves, create a Bezier curve, and let's bring this up where we can see it, and go ahead and scale it down quite a bit. Control up arrow back to our options here, go into our curve options, make it a full, give it some depth, and in this case we want this to be pretty big, maybe not too gigantic, or maybe one of them will be, and give it some resolution, and see if we can bring this into place. I'm going to rotate it along the X 90 degrees, or X 90. And tab in edit mode and just grab this segment here, and we're going to rotate this, and I want to get it right in the center there, so see if I can move that into place. And just E-extrude. I'm going to bring this out, rotate it, bring it down, E-extrude, rotate it around, E-extrude, bring it up like this. And E-extrude, see if I can, don't really want it to be that tall, scale this down, grab this one, scale this one down, and basically just want to rotate it into the wall there. So 3 side view or rotate, about like that, and then we can grab it and just pull it in a little bit. Okay, kind of strange, but we're not going to see all of this because we're going to have a little bit of detail in front of it. Kind of gives us a back detailing. And then what we can do, I'm just going to use this curve again. Let me go into control up arrow, Shift D, duplicate this curve, bring it down a little bit, tab in edit mode, and just want this segment right here, basically, so X delete this segment, X delete that segment, and it's not doing it. Okay, I got to delete the vertices because I'm in edit mode here. And maybe actually keep this one, but I want to rotate this and bring it up and scale it down, move it down here, and go back to our options here, and I want to bring the depth down quite a bit. Okay. and basically just make some smaller hosing that is going off in that direction, basically for no reason whatsoever. And duplicate this one, Shift D, duplicate. I'm just going to move this up about right there, tab in edit mode, and just adjust it a little bit so that it looks like it's following the path of that other hose. Something like that. And now I'm going to Shift A, create a cylinder, and let's bring this out. RX90, scale it down. Tab into edit mode, and really don't need, choose faces, I don't need this back face, so X, delete that face. And move this into place here. Way too big, and scale it down. SY to scale along the Y. And create a cube. Shift A, create a cube. Bring this in here, scale it down. Bring it over here, scale it down. Oops. And basically just want to move this into place on the side of the cylinder. And tab in edit mode, grab this face here, bring it up. Extrude, bring it inward. Something like that, then I can delete that face. Shift D, duplicate this, bring it over on this side. Okay, create another cube. Bring it over, scale it down. I'm going to bring it over to the side of this big cylinder here. Tab in edit mode, I don't need this back face, delete that face. Maybe scale this up, scale along the Y, make it thinner. Okay, tab into edit mode, and I'm going to do a Control R and up and move my mouse wheel up to create some geometry there, and Control R, do the same thing on this side just to give it some extra geometry. Go to vertex, select these, X, delete those vertices, select these. And we're just going to move those out a little bit. Select those there, or that one. Why am I not seeing two? Oh, because I have no back. Go ahead and delete these vertices. select those two, move them down. So it sort of goes around that. And then choose faces. And we can give a little bit of detail here. Just extrude, and I'm just going to delete that face. And maybe for this, I'm just going to do a Control-R edge loop, bring that out, go back to face, grab that face there, extrude over, do another edge loop, and grab that face and extrude inward. So basically, you know, a bunch of nonsense here that it doesn't really, you know, make sense what it is, but when we see the final product with the materials and everything, hopefully it'll fool the eye enough to be something interesting. And in many cases, it, you know, we may not even see a lot of this, especially if we darken it up with the black material. Okay, so some bizarre object in there that is kind of around that cylinder. And maybe even grab this one here, extrude this face, and just go in like that, extrude out, come back up. Oops. Something like that, just to give it a little bit more detail. Okay, so not a lot there, but what I want to do is these are like very large objects, and it won't look realistic when we, you know, think of this spaceship as a huge spaceship. If we see all these large objects, we're going to see kind of a hint of these objects. But what I want to do is some of the fine detailing work that we do, I want to duplicate some of that and add it in here later. So for right now, for the front, this is okay. What I'm going to do is just, actually I need to convert these curves, so let's go ahead and do that. Convert to mesh. Convert to mesh. Same thing with these other curves. Okay, so now we can take all of our pieces here and put them together. And I'm just going to shift select all of these. And do a Control J to join them. And I think I got everything there. Okay. And now we need to look at the back side. What I'm going to do for the details, I'm going to just duplicate this and bring it to the back. But first, I want to look at this part, this rear part of the ship. This is pretty bland. There's nothing really here. So I think what I'm going to do is go and turn my occlude on. And I'm going to do sort of the same thing, but not quite. I'm going to Alt select all these faces and change my pivot point to individual origins. Go to my tools menu and extrude the individual and just scale down just a little bit, and then change back to my medium point and extrude individual and just scale upward this time and do a Control-R edge loop. Up like that. Control our edge loop here. Bring it up like that. See how that looks. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm happy with that, but we'll keep it for now. I need to scale it down a little bit since we extruded upward. All right. And let's see how this looks like if we turned the subdivision surface off. And let's make it flat. Okay, that's more like what I was going for on this. And in fact, I may just take this back section and copy it to the front because I tend to like that better. The ship is more like a industrial type of space station or whatever. So I think the hard edges service a lot better than the nice smooth edges. And besides, this has reminded me more of like the end of a rocket exhaust or something. So anyway, we'll keep this for now. Control up arrow, tab in edit mode. And of course that'll save us on faces as well, on our polygon count. So we choose vertex here and alt select these. And F, create a face there. So there we have our face. Tab back in object mode. Come over here and grab these, and you'll notice that I've already gotten in the habit of creating stuff so fast that I'm not naming it in the outliner. So one of the final things we'll do is go back and we'll name all our different objects. So I'm just going to do a Shift D to duplicate that, go into 7 top view, and just move it over to the rear of the ship here. And I'm going to do a rotate 180 around the Z-axis, so RZ 180, enter, and just move it into place here. Okay. And it doesn't have to be exact. You can also, if you want to, you could rotate this. If we go into Control 1 view for the rear, and basically our pivot point is not in the center, so we need to change that. So I'm going to choose T, origin to 3D cursor. So that way we can rotate it correctly. And we could actually do something like this, if you like. Or however you want to do it. We can actually make different objects as well, but just for the sake of creating this tutorial within a reasonable time, just going to duplicate this. Now what I'd really like to do back here, I think, that as I'm thinking about it, is I'd like to make this rear sort of like the docking area for ships coming in. So almost like once you get into this is going to be a huge round area, and you have a ship that's, maybe a B box select, maybe your ship is something like that big. It comes in and there's areas where the ships can dock into here. Of course, creating something detailed in here to that extent is way beyond the scope of this tutorial. So I'm not going to do that, but it's just an idea that I had. Maybe something that, if you like that idea, you could add that as well onto yours. So that is the basic pieces of the interior, the front and rear. Doesn't look like much now, but once we get into our more minute details and add some in there, then I think it's going to look fine. If we go back, control up arrow, and look at our image here, I do want to do something with this here. It looks like maybe almost like a little control room or a little ship that's there. But I think what I'm going to do is wait until I get the details, the minute details done, and we're going to come around the craft, and we're going to kind of ornament the craft in different places where we think, things need to go, and I think this will probably be one of those things. And speaking again about this image, the more I think about it, the more I look at it, in my mind, this is more of like a space station craft. It's not like something that travels is in orbit around the Earth, and that's where it stays. The reason I think that is because, for one, the solar panels, it's there to generate the power for the space station, and all these kind of details that are going on here just doesn't look like something that's going to be meant for traveling long distances or any distance through space. As far as from one point to another, it looks more like almost like might be sort of like a mining station in space or something, but definitely a industrial type working space station, I think. Okay, I'm just going to do a Control S to save. Go ahead and shift select my lamps and my solar panels, and I'm going to do a final render of this. Okay, so not bad so far. We don't see very many of the details in here because of the angle. If you want to see that, how it looks, not a big deal, just to add a camera to get that view and go ahead and render that. So in the next part of this tutorial, part 7, we're going to be working on the details, the minute details that we see on the spacecraft. So kind of an exciting area to get into. So thanks for sticking with me so far. I hope you're having as much fun as I am in recreating this Berkey spacecraft.